Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
I'm live right now. I didn't even hear the intro. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here. And we broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. Let's see. Nate is engineering the broadcast. And if you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Listen line, 605-562-40. Oh, no. Let me change that. 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. Captain John Regan's with us. Welcome, Captain John Regan.
Good morning, Vincent.
Hey, is it Monday? So, John, have you had a good weekend?
It's been interesting, and I've got a little bit of news that we didn't even get a chance to talk about before the show. When I went to hear the Watchman, I debuted my new website, eze33.org, and that's short for Ezekiel 33, which when you read the first part of Ezekiel 33, that's the physical watchman, the one that warns that the sword is coming. And the reason I put that site together is when I originally did the Financial State of the Union, it was supposed to be pretty general-oriented. I didn't really get into reasons behind why things were happening. It was just an objective view of where things were and, given the lessons of history, where we're going. And through the years, that's morphed a little bit and included things like spy tech and adding the spiritual element to it. And so I'm working on getting some of that newer information more on the Ezekiel 33 site and try to see what I can do about getting the Financial State of the Union being a little bit more dialed down for the general populace out there. And I'll talk about this a little bit more next hour. When I went to the Hear the Watchman conference, I introduced a USB thumb drive that has 4 hours of presentations plus 2.5 hours of bonus audio plus other resources on it. And we'll get into that. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you before we get into the cheerful news of the day.
I was thinking about Friday. One of our instructors came over and I taught a class on automotive mechanics, and it was really great because he had a problem with his truck. It was an old 1970s vintage Chevy truck, and we spent hours and hours and hours and hours together. And I taught him about how to do a compression check and make sure the engine is mechanically sound before we started. And it was really kind of neat. And the reason I'm mentioning this is I think we're going to have to revisit some of our skills. And I have never worked on a inline Chevy 6-cylinder 250 cubic inch engine with a Rochester monojet carburetor. And some of the information is getting harder and harder to find on the internet, where you used to be able to just type a few search words and find what you're looking for. It's getting harder and harder to find posts that don't deal with commerce and trying to sell you something, where you're just trying to find information to do some, get something accomplished. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I had to draw on skills that were, 30 years old, 40 years old, and apply them and teach this class on the fly without any preparation whatsoever. And so, we tuned this vehicle up. We got it running really, really well, and it was a great experience. And the reason that this is so important is because going down the road, you're going to have to. I believe our class is going to have to draw on experiences and information and knowledge and skills that they had years ago to get through the day. And it's as simple as, when the power fails and you think that, now just run the generator, and then you think about, well, you don't know when the power's going to come back on, and you have to do some quick calculations and look at the burn rate for the generator and find out when you want to run the generator. If the power doesn't come on tonight, do you want to freeze all night? Or, mini-max regret and constrained optimization is what I'm talking about. So a lot of these skills that you've had and you've thought about and you maybe toyed with, and you might have to deploy them. So just a thought, class. Make sure you've got lots of skills, and make sure that you have paper-based information, or you've got plenty of batteries to get through so you can read your electronic information. But imagine trying to figure something out when you don't have your cell phone working, or you don't have the internet working, and you base all of your research on a search engine. So think about that, please. So, John, where would you like to start today?
Well, we haven't talked about A Tale of Two Droughts in a while, and I'm beginning to wonder, are we getting good information on this? Because when you look at the California map, there's a button underneath the table that says View More Statistics. And where the current level of drought is, which includes 21% of the state being in extreme drought status, we look down, and it's been that way since September 13th. And all that changed was a little bit going from basically drought condition 1 to drought condition 2. And when we follow that one back, we go all the way back to May 31st. And we consider California is the third largest state in the union geographic-wise. Really, is this all that's changed in the last few months? It's just a little bit of the area gone from drought 1 to drought 2. Everything else has stayed the same. So when you flip over to Texas, it's changed considerably, just over the last few weeks. And when you go back to May, it's a completely different picture. Now, I know California's a little bit more stable climate-wise than Texas, but to me, it's kind of ridiculous to expect that there's not even a fraction of a % difference in drought category for these large areas.
It's interesting you say this. I was on the phone over the weekend with Joey, one of our instructors in Michigan. And we were talking about information access on the internet. And we're finding out that all of a sudden there has been an increasingly lower amount of searches from search engines that relate to what we're looking for. So, for example, where there maybe used to be 10 bona fide, germane, on-target research results for information, there might be 3 or 2. And we've noticed that. He noticed that independently from me, and we started talking about that. So now, of course, the next question is, are we getting the right information, which is what you're talking about, accurate, correct, truthful information. And then the next dot to connect on that is you just look at the presidential campaign and how the media is lopsided and pro-Hillary, and Donald Trump has been exposing this, and then you hear the vice presidential candidate Pence saying that, whatever the results of the election are, we're good with that. I don't think that's what I'm saying is we're hearing things that don't make sense. We're reading things that aren't germane, and it's very, very, very confusing. Are you seeing the same thing? Are you reading the same kind of things, John?
Yeah, it's interesting to see information that I used to get a pretty good access to, that I could run the numbers and check to see, when you go from the data, do you get the numbers that are presented in basically the press release? And it's getting harder and harder to connect the dots and make sense of what they report.
Mm-hmm. And I'd said to the meetup group when we had the USA Prepares meetup, which we no longer have any scheduled for the foreseeable future, I would tell the meetup group, look, I'm trying to teach you how to decipher and read and ferret out the truth from the messages that are all over the media, because we're being lied to. And many of the meetup group, didn't want to hear that. I think now they're realizing that that's actually the truth, that the media has been lying to us. And how many people have you heard say, yeah, I'm up on the news. I watch Fox News. And they think that that's the perspective, that's the truth. As a matter of fact, I even got a call about that this morning. A call from someone who's absolutely knows me personally and is very, very concerned about a couple things. One, the Second Amendment. Their entire family feels that the Second Amendment is going to be removed. We will not be able to bear arms and defend ourselves, according to the rules and regulations and procedures and policies and restrictions by the other team, and that we'll lose the freedom of religion. And I explained that, part of the reason why there's a concern about the freedom of religion is because of the fellowship at the religious halls, where we get a chance to talk about the other team and how bad they are. We'll be right back. John Regan's with us, Captain John Regan. John, have you seen this post on Daily Mail about Julian Assange's internet link to the world mysteriously being shut down?
Yes, and they didn't name names, but I'm suspecting it has to do with the District of Criminals.
Okay. Let me just take a side trip with you. I think this is quite important. Here's the headline, and I'm reading this, so these are not my words. Julian Assange's internet link to the world is mysteriously shut down as his email links infuriate the Clinton campaign. And hours after a visit by Pamela Anderson sparked crazy rumors that she poisoned him with a vegan sandwich. And continues on. Pamela Anderson visited the Ecuadorian embassy in London on Saturday, said Assange joked that she had tortured him by bringing him the only vegan food. On Sunday morning, WikiLeaks posted 3 mysterious tweets. Many on Twitter believe the tweets, which referenced John Kerry, Ecuador, and the UK Foreign Office, were triggered by Assange's death. Now he claims that the state agents have severed his embassy internet link. So we don't know if he's alive or dead, but there's a lot of questions, and I'll post a link to this at usaprepares.com, page 1. So, if he were killed, and he were killed by the Clintons, he'll just be in a long list of people who have died around the Clintons. Quite terrifying when you think that she just may be the occupant at the White House. And I don't know anybody. Well, I might know one guy, but I haven't heard directly from him. might know one guy who would vote for her. But other than that, the numbers that I see and feel and hear are vastly for the Trump side. And I know there'll be a lot of people really, really angry if the election is stolen. And, I was at a gun show over the weekend, and I asked people, so, are you concerned? People I didn't know, people who didn't know me, just people I just happened to be standing next to, people behind on the other side of the tables, selling their wares at the gun show. And not one person said, no, it's good, everything's fine. Not one person. Everybody is deeply, deeply concerned and getting ready. And they say the people that they know, their customers when they're not at the gun show, the people that they interact with are of the same opinion. They're worried as well. And they're getting ready as well. These are terrible times. And John, we lived through the Cold War when we were in school in our early years. And, everything was good for a while. And now all of a sudden there's saber rattling. And you said that one of the ways out of this economics collapse is to start a war. And here we are. Even the mainstream media is talking about this, John. War with Russia. Right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that next hour. It's like I've been saying, we're guaranteed to have a financial collapse. The thing that would be different is if World War III ends first, and that's getting to be closer to being a possibility now. And the financial side of things doesn't look good, and a couple of these articles will reinforce some things we've already talked about this morning. But starting off, I've got the 3 R's: restaurants, rail, and retail. And it's all down. Restaurant industry, their index dropped from a full point from 100.6 to 99.6 between July and August. And when you look at the chart, last time you saw drops like that, and the territory it's in now was as it was approaching the crash that we had in 2008. Rail is down over 6% from the same week a year ago and 10% from 2 years ago. And retail, looking at the unadjusted figures, down 2.6% month to month.
John, as you say that, I used to watch the trains go by, traveling back and forth to Springfield, whenever I did. I don't see the trains running anywhere near as much as they used to, so those numbers seem low to me. Captain John Regan's with us. And John, we're talking about restaurants, rail, and retail. I can tell you that when I travel through Springfield, Missouri, I don't see many cars in the parking lots of restaurants. I don't know how they're surviving at all. And they're building more of them. They're building more fast food joints in Springfield, Missouri than I've ever seen before. But where I do see cars, Aldi, the supermarket, I do a lot of cars. I do see cars at the dollar stores. Those less expensive stores, the dollar type stores, Dollar General, and so forth, and Goodwill. That's where I see commerce going on. So I don't know if it's different in your neck of the woods, but I just wanted to connect those dots. That's what I see.
Especially in the Dallas area, it's still a bit of an artificial environment because we have so many companies moving in from other states that's artificially increasing the economy here. Houston doesn't get that as much, and they are suffering quite a bit right now.
I know on Craigslist you'll see advertisements, and people are saying, here's what we'd like for it, here's the price, or best offer. And I know of transactions where the best offer is about a third off, and those offers are accepted. So a $3,000 item, final negotiation price $2,000. And people are hurting, and they're selling things because they need the money to pay those banknotes and credit card bills and so forth, and buy food and electricity. Okay, what's next?
The next link is Obamacare or a house. And when Obamacare was passed, the way it was written is that the bulk of it would not go into effect until after Barry left office, so it didn't affect his presidency. However, we're now at that point, and it should be before the election, for those that haven't received notices yet, that the increases for next year are going to be known. And in many cases, it's double-digit, sometimes extreme double-digit increases. And there's this one example here where the notification is that where their current premium is just under $1,300, that it's going to be almost $1,900 a month for their Obamacare plan, 1864. And for fun, they ran a mortgage calculator. A $400,000 house at 3.92% interest for 30 years has a monthly payment of $1,891. So you have a choice. You can have health insurance or a $400,000 house. And Obamacare is doing a great job of destroying the economy, because for those people that follow the law and get the insurance so they don't have to pay the penalty, they're suffering because they no longer have money to buy other things with. And other people are kind of like in my position, can't afford the insurance anyway. So we're having to pay the penalty for not being able to afford insurance. And that means that's less money that we can use on other things. So one way or the other, Barry's doing a great job of destroying the economy.
John, I was thinking about some of the people who are doing really well. And the people who are, or the companies who are doing really well. And they're in the business of selling secrets, ratting us out, prying into our lives. And on an individual basis, those are people who are more dishonest than we are. And I'm not saying we're dishonest, but I'm saying that, they don't have the level of honesty. So I've been looking at our instructors, and I've been looking at the wherewithal of some of our instructors. I'm kind of estimating it. And I'm thinking that honesty, when you're honest, there's a price you pay. You probably won't have as much stolen wealth as someone who's dishonest. And I remember telling our children when our children were young, I said, and they were still in the public training camp before we took them out. I said, honesty is really important. I told them what it was. And I said, but you'll be at a disadvantage, a severe disadvantage, if you are honest and you tell the truth. Because you're going to find that some classmates are going to lie, and they're going to get away with lying, and they're going to get away with doing bad things because they lie. And, if you tell the truth, you're probably going to be punished. Whereas someone who lies isn't punished because they get away with it. And, our children still feel that honesty is the right way to go and the best policy. But you look at at Hillary, that woman can't help but lie. And what I can't understand, John, it's overwhelming that so many people are just apparently, I don't know who they are, but according to the media, there are people who seem to think that she's the right gal for the job. And I'm looking at a picture on the internet of her transportation vehicle, and this thing. Did you know that van that she has a bed in it? Has a bed in it, and it also has a very large television, very large. Let's see. I'm trying to find gets 16 miles per gallon. Has a 29-inch TV in her van. Obviously, these reports about her being sicker are there's a lot of interest in finding out just how sick she really is, and I think it's really interesting about the allegations of her being doped up, and we'll talk about that too. But I'm sorry for digressing, John, but it just bothers me just watching our country go down the drain, and so many people are really like almost in a panic about this, and I guess they should be, because we'll know soon enough how much we've been sold out. We've been warning people, John. It's just that the vast majority isn't paying attention.
And the thing is the WikiLeaks emails have come out and, vindicated everything that we've been saying.
Yeah, they have. And I don't understand. People will say to me, do you think there's going to be a financial problem? And I'll say, absolutely. It's a mathematical certainty. There's no way but to have a financial calamity, a financial collapse. It's impossible to avoid it. Okay. And then they just go on about their lives. For people who have been paying attention to us have had over 5 years to get ready. And yet, I don't think very many of them are really ready. Literally. It's frustrating. I was talking with Miles over the weekend. Miles called me from Europe. And he was talking about Janet Yellen. And he said that Janet Yellen will raise the inflation rate. Now think about that. She's going to raise the inflation rate. She's going to deflate the U.S. dollar. Products will end up costing us more, which they already are. Pension funds are at risk. And I understand that 1/3 of Citibank, some of their loans, 1/3 of some of their loans are not being paid for 180 days. And what he said was something he said before: if you need it and you can get it, and it's at the right price, then get it, because it's going to get more difficult to get it, whatever it is. And he said we're going to start seeing the price increases by Friday. This Friday. And he says that all institutions are going to react to this. This is his analysis on what he's learned by the Fed increasing the inflation rate. And so interest rates for borrowing will increase, and interest rates paid on savings will decrease. Those are his thoughts. Does that jive with what you found?
Well, from what I'm seeing, I believe they're going to do everything they can to make the economy seem good or normal, at least through the election, because a good economy favors the incumbent party. Sure. And if things start turning south, and I'm not sure they have a lot of control over this, because it's an international environment now, if things go south, then that would favor Trump, which is something they definitely don't want to do.
I saw something really neat over the weekend. I was at this show, the RK Gun Show in Springfield, Missouri, and I saw this shirt that said Hillary on it. I couldn't believe it. I thought, this guy's still alive in here with a shirt. No one's escorted him out. He's not bleeding anywhere, and he's got a shirt that says Hillary, and it just below it says for prison. And I'm sure you've seen Hillary for prison, but it was great seeing that. Hillary for prison. And by the way, he knows who we are. He is one of our class. Okay, what's next?
Well, with Friends Like This department, Christie is punishing New Jersey, signs a 23 cent a gallon gasoline hike. Yeah, if they tried that in Texas, the governor would be in a world of hurts, but New Jersey seems to be a little strange anyway. and let me just reach the next one before we hit the break. Atlanta Fed's Q3 GDP is revised down to 1.9 from 2.1, and the annual growth rate does not look good.
John, 23 cents increase in gasoline tax is a massive, massive percentage increase. It's big. It's really big as a percentage. Captain John Regan's with us. Class, gun shows this weekend. Coming up. There's one in Kansas City, Mo. October 22nd, Kansas City, Missouri. And if you're interested, it'd be a great show. John?
Well, let me try and finish off the financial section. I'm planning on starting with the bigger picture for next hour.
Mm-hmm.
Debt jumps to $19.7 trillion and price set to jump. We had just talked about how with the end of the 2016 accounting year, our federal debt is up to $19.5 trillion. Well, in the first 8 business days, we've had a jump of $170 billion in debt, bringing our total federal debt to $19.7 trillion. He may not be able to buy the election outright, but trying to probably do whatever they can again to make the economy seem good and normal to help a certain candidate. And we've also talked about olive oil and the problem with the diseased trees and cutting the yield and the crops. Well, in some areas in Italy, production falls to less than half of last year's crop. And so if you want your Italian olive oil, I suggest you go out and buy it now, or if you want to make this a financial play, buy up a stock of it so you can sell it later.
John, I was at the Chinese factory outlet over the weekend. I needed to pick up a couple items. I need to pick up some gear oil, and for the differential of a few vehicles I've been working on over the weekend. And I decided to go and just look at olive oil, the least expensive olive oil I could find. The least expensive, which was a blend of oils from olive oils, extra virgin olive oil from many different countries, was 22 cents an ounce. If you want the good stuff, you're looking at somewhere around 35 cents an ounce. So yes, it's going up. There's no question about it. And there are lots of reports about olive oil being diluted with other oils and being sold as pure olive oil. And even the containers say contents olive oil. That's it. So I don't know, but I don't really want to buy olive oil that's blended from many different countries. I'd really like to have olive oil from a reputable source. And we eat olive oil right here at the Finelli family and have for as long as I've been alive. Extra virgin olive oil was just something that was around here. From my grandparents to my parents to us. So I think it's the right oil to use for many, many reasons. Okay, what's next?
I've got a couple of articles in the employment section about no job being safe. One talks about autonomous robots that does yard work. Imagine how many illegals that'll put out of work. And second one's from the Daily Mail showing a robot that does fantastic work on cutting through trees. So I guess we don't need any lumberjacks anymore either.
Yeah, but, there's one thing that I think we're not looking at, and that is the end of the internal combustion engine. So are all these robots going to use electricity, and are we going to have to plug them all in? How do we do the things that we need to do that are done with portable energy, which would be gasoline or diesel? I'm still struggling with that, and as I've been thinking about this for the last several days, Yeah, we're putting people out of work. We won't have the transportable fuels that we put in our tank, like the petro fuels. It's a concern. Think about that, class. So where does it matter if you don't have a weed whacker? Probably not so much. Lawnmower? Maybe a little bit more. Trucks on the highway that use internal combustion engines? What is the replacement for the internal combustion engine? I don't know. Because we've been using them since the 1880s. They've been improved, but still have pistons, still have piston rings, still have cylinders, crankshafts, valves, intake and exhaust systems. That's all unchanged. Maybe we can find some other kind of fuel. Maybe we can get them to run on water. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? There we go. Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Captain John Regan's with us. Captain John?
Well, there were a couple of huge news items last week, and I used the Daily Mail version of both of them. The first, Temple Mount is Muslim. The UN has reclassified the Temple Mount and Western Wall as an exclusively Muslim site, denying the history of Israel and everything that we know from the Bible. It's, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that the UN would take this kind of action, but it further, pushes the tensions and, down the road in an area that's already a powder keg waiting for a spark. I don't know how much.
Waiting for me?
Yeah. Do you want to add anything to that, or?
No. Please continue.
The big item, though, and to perhaps back up a little bit, I look at some of the really disturbing news items that I've experienced as an adult. And I say that because one of the big ones kicked off 54 years ago yesterday into an event that we know as the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I turned 5.5 in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis, so I was a bit young to understand what was going on. I have vague recollections of my parents being a little tense, but again, at that point, when you're that young, you're looking forward to going out and doing trick or treat, and those other things that are happening really don't have meaning for you. Well, I guess a couple more items. When I was stationed in Germany, that was the time frame between 82 and 85 that the Soviet Union had 2 of their leaders die close together, and we ended up with Gorbachev as the leader. But especially because I was in Germany, that was very tense. The young people that didn't live through the Cold War don't understand what that environment was like. And for those of us that were stationed in Europe, we were essentially the sacrificial pawns should World War III start. And up until recently, there's things that cause more concern than others. The one that ratcheted up a little bit for me was when Russia had the civilian exercise of getting 40 million people to survival bunkers, which we used to have civil defense shelters back in the 60s. The government got rid of that and just built nice shelters for the leaders that have sold us out. But then late Tuesday afternoon, news broke. It was originally just on a Russian language website. Zero Hedge was the first site that I can tell that picked it up in English. Just a few blogs picked that up from what I could tell. Daily Mail picked it up on Wednesday, and I saw U.S. News pick it up on Thursday. Russia ordered all officials to fly home any relatives living abroad. They told them to pull their kids out of school. Don't wait for the end of the semester. And when you're going to college at the schools that these kids would be going to, that is not cheap tuition, especially since you're a foreigner. You're paying the highest rates, and when you pull out, you don't necessarily get readmission. So it's a very, very serious act of what they're doing here. The only thing that would be a worse sign is if they start recalling ambassadors, closing embassies, or even if we just see where they have a group of ambassadors called to Moscow for a meeting. All of that would be very bad signs. And what's different now from, say, when I was in the Air Force, apparently we now have people in D.C. that think a nuclear war is winnable. And the way the Russian ideology is, they're very patient. They don't really want war. But if they believe war is inevitable, they're going to strike first and strike hard. But there's been a lot of updated weapons happen, especially in the arsenal of Russia and China. Everything from hypersonic warheads. There's been electronic warfare improvements, and on both sides, east and west, more drones, and even moving to autonomous fighting machines. It's a very disturbing time, and even if Trump would win the election, there's still over 2 months for Barry to do some very stupid things. And if Hillary wins, that might be enough for the Russians to say, we're not going to wait any longer. So whatever you need to do to get your preps ready, I would highly suggest doing it now. Vincent.
John, it seems that Donald Trump is the only one that I've heard not poking at Russia. He seems to be the guy that's saying, well, he wants to meet some of these other leaders of countries to talk to them, to get to know them. He seems like he's a businessman that, wants to find out what the opportunities are, who our friends are, and who our friends are not. And if you look at the establishment politicians, they're poking at Russia. Everything was great. Everything was great for decades. Now all of a sudden, Barry and the bandits are poking at Russia. Hillary, it's really disconcerting. I don't like it. And unfortunately, I don't believe there's anything we can do to stop it. I don't know how we can stop it. We could if we could amass all of those who think as our team thinks. But our team is so small. And I keep hearing that there's maybe 3% involved in the American Revolution, and the others were just there. But 3% were active participants. I don't think we have 3% on our team. I think we have 0.1% on our team. I keep hearing we have 5%. I just don't see it. I mean, I was at a gun show and it was packed, but it wasn't packed. I mean, there were thousands of people there, but you would think there'd be hundreds of thousands of people there, given the current crisis, given the current economic situation, given the current news cycle that, those who are interested in paying attention. We have a lot of dumb people in this country, John. We have way too many dumb people.
It's like Obamacare architect Gruber said, they couldn't do it without the stupid voters. And since there wasn't a single Republican voting for Obamacare, the only voters I believe they're referring to are the Democrat voters.
John, I'm looking at a post right now. I was stomping around the kitchen last night as I was reading this. Let me just read this. This is dailymail.co.uk. And it shows, this is what it says. The moment a black man was arrested by a white cop for walking in the street after he was left with no other option because the sidewalk was under construction. So they're working on the sidewalk. And if this black man walked through the construction site, he'd be walking through hammering and chiseling and all the things that they do to sidewalks. You don't do that. You don't walk through a construction site. So he's walking along the sidewalk, comes up to the construction site, and then steps off the sidewalk so he can get around it. And what happens? This unmarked vehicle, this unmarked cop car with an unidentified cop with a long blue, light blue shirt, long sleeve, brown trousers, big guy, gets out and grabs this guy. He's got a badge on his belt, but he doesn't look like a cop from a distance. He's got brown shoes, brown pants, brown belt, badge on his hip, and he grabs. He doesn't have the gun belt with all the accessories. He's got a radio and an unmarked car. It's a Jeep, an unmarked Jeep. And then what pulls up next to him? And he calls for help. Then a van pulls up, another police car, unmarked. And then ultimately a uniformed cop shows up, or maybe more. But what I'm saying is, you remember Mike Parsons saying that in Tennessee, cops are saving a lot of money because they're not putting the identification paint on the vehicles that say, police department, protect and serve, and whatever else they might say. These are unidentified vehicles. And I saw vehicles like this in Kansas City. They were parked in a fire lane. They were parked where no one should be parking in case there's a fire. That's where the fire trucks go. And what do? They put a little paper sign that says police. So that means it's okay. It's okay to park in a fire lane. What's happening is this guy got grabbed, he got arrested for doing what? For not walking through a sidewalk construction area. So, John, where did this happen? Well, let's see. Trying to find the exact town that this happened. Just had it. Edina, Minnesota. So this young black man was grabbed by this cop, and the cop just holds on to him, won't let him go. Okay, he's not in handcuffs, and the guy says, well, if I'm not arrested, let go of me, in so many words. And the cop says, we haven't gotten to that point. So you think, well, maybe there's some discussion possibilities. No, the reason they haven't gotten to that point is the cop was waiting for his reinforcements. Then when they show up, then another cop pulls up, blocks traffic, and arrests this black man. All he did was avoid walking through a construction area on the sidewalk. This is happening more and more, and it appears that it's becoming illegal to be black in the United States. Totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And I think these cops are actually afraid for their lives. And the reason I say that is, why else would they be in these unmarked vehicles without uniforms? They're wearing street clothes, and they're in unmarked uniforms, unmarked cars. However, they do have the ability to turn on the lights and the sirens and the flashing lights, the red lights, blue lights, the white lights, flashing lights, sirens, because they're all hidden from view. They're not outside the vehicle. They are behind the windshield, behind the windows, in the grill. That's the tactics that are now being used by the Blue Plague. George, welcome.
Hello, guys.
Hey.
Vince, have a movie recommendation for you.
Great. Is it homework?
Yeah, you could say it's homework. The movie's called The Free State of Jones. It's about a Confederate army, and this guy gets disillusioned with the war and watching one of his relatives get killed, and goes back home and takes over the county. He gets mad about them with forced conscription and the army confiscating goods from the people.
You
Sounds
know
a
about
little
the
bit like
Battle of Athens, Tennessee, where guys came back from World War II and they weren't happy with the county government and they took it back?
Yeah, and that's what we need to do today. And also, I want to know if you made up your mind whether you're going to go to Pensacola or not.
I have not decided. I have determined that I don't want to travel as much. I have determined that. So I don't know about going to the show in the Arcade Prepper show in Pensacola. I don't know if they have me on schedule or not. I don't know if they have Rick Miller or Matt Stein. I don't know. But, I was talking to some of our instructors over the weekend, George and John Regan, and I'm finding that I need to spend more and more time on the farm. Sounds like an excuse, but it's not. I said to Mrs. Finelli last night, we were having dinner, and I said, everything is getting harder. It's more difficult. No matter what I try to do, it's harder, farther, heavier, costs more intricate, more complicated. Everything is becoming harder. George, are you seeing the same thing in your neck of the woods?
I sure am. And with everything getting heavier like you've been talking about, I just tell my wife this: it sucks getting old.
Well, I don't know if that's exactly all of it. That may be a portion of it. But everything's getting more complicated. There are prerequisites to prerequisites to prerequisites for almost everything I do. And everything I do requires more tools, more different kinds of tools that I don't have yet, specialized tools, things that get in the way of accomplishing tasks. Just fixing things is becoming more complicated. That's what I'm talking about. And are you seeing that as well?
Oh, yeah, every day.
Okay. Anything else you want to share?
That's it. Appreciate it.
Hey, George, thanks so much. John Regan and I'll be right back. Captain John Regan's with us. John, what's next?
Well, I think a lot of the class is familiar with David Stockman. He was the director of the Office of Management and Budget under President Reagan. And he's been one of the guys out there sounding the alarm on the condition of our federal government. And I've called the link Stockman Gate. His website has now gone gated with a $400 per year subscription, or you can just do it monthly for $39 a month, which works out to $468 a year. And part of that is because the browsers are now coming with ad blockers, and ads are a source of revenue for the people that do have a large following like David does. So he probably didn't have a choice. He did used to have a very nice blog that we got information from, and there's still bits and pieces that come out, and he also writes on other sites. But for what we're used to getting, that's now no longer a cheap option. And I brought that up because I've got the way that I'm going to be handling things for as long as we have. hopefully we get past these next few months, and if the election goes right, then perhaps we get a few more months or years to get ready. When I was at the Hear the Watchman conference in Knoxville, I introduced my new website, eze33.org, and that's meant to be my ministry website, short for Ezekiel 33, a watchman on the wall, letting you know the sword is coming. And for those of you that don't like typing the financial state of the union.com, the good news is you can do eze33.org, and there's several of the tabs there that right now link back to the financial state of the union. It makes it a whole lot easier. Also, if you want to email me, it's a whole lot shorter email, just John at eze33.org. Instead of the mile-long domain name, financialstateoftheunion.com. And the other thing I introduced at the conference is I put together a USB thumb drive with over 4 hours of presentations. The presentation is entitled The Cost of Ignoring God. The 90-minute presentation I did at Knoxville was the summary of all of that. This includes what I call the 2016 election edition of the Financial State of the Union. It doesn't go into quite the depth that the book does. It's meant just to get anybody that hasn't read the book up to speed on what our situation is. I also cover a lot of things we've talked about on air with the war scenario, because the lessons of history say that when you have these tough economic times, the usual outcome is war. And the alternative is, if all the nations are truly controlled, the no war scenario, which gets into all the technology and the loss of freedom for everybody. And a little over 2 hours of the videos is what I call the unprepared prepper. And I've talked about some of that, like salt, a whole lot of areas. It's almost A to Z. I'm thinking about adding zoo animals just so I got a Z, given what's been happening in Venezuela. Zoo animals are end up being on the menu as well. But it's designed to get a lot of things at least on your plate so that you can consider them. And some of these, and the salt's a great example. If you're not ready with that, that turns into something deadly. And I was looking, how do I get this out there? A lot of people don't have internet, and then this information starts taking a lot of space. I've already used 1 gigabyte on this USB drive. What I've done with the presentations, there's kind of like I didn't do an HD version because I don't expect very many people to do this on a TV. So we've got a computer version that's internet quality. We've got a mobile version of the video that you can put on your smartphone or tablet. And then once you've seen the presentations with the slides, and you don't really need to see the slides anymore, I've also got the audio for that, so you can download the audio and listen to it while you're commuting or whatever. And then that's not where it stops. I've got a bonus section that includes a lot of things that we've talked about on USA Prepares. I took this out of the shows we've done, including things like the Watchman of Ezekiel, Stupid Voters and Useful Idiots, Words Mean Things, the 10 Planks of the Communist Manifesto, the 45 Communist Goals, and many others. 2.5 hours of audio, and also include resources like the EMP Commission reports, as well as other things that I believe you should be familiar with in order to get the full picture. And right now, I'm extending the conference pricing on that. It took me a while getting the shopping cart up, so I'm going to extend the conference pricing through November 7th. I was just going to do that through the end of the month, but I want to give people time because I know budgets are tight, and if you want to get this, I want you to have it. If you just need the USB drive, that's $40. There'll be $5 shipping, and if you live in Texas, there'll be sales tax. I've also got a limited supply of the Financial State of the Union book. I only have those on hand when I have a live event. So I'm offering a special combo. If you want a signed copy of the book and this USB drive, I'm doing that for $50. And once the supply of the books is gone, that's gone. You can always get the book off Amazon, and I will be raising the price on this drive. And I also want you to know there's a serial number on the drive so that as I update this library with other information, you'll be getting that for a reduced rate because you've already gotten in line for getting your information. And I expect I'll probably be releasing updated versions of this. I don't know exactly how often. It's probably not going to be on an exact schedule. I would imagine at least 4 times a year, possibly 6 times a year. And I'm also working on getting an email sign up on my website because we're at the point where, those of us that are into truth and those of us that stand up for the God of Abraham, we're on the hit list. And they're making it as difficult as they possible on the way to making it illegal. We know Facebook does a lot of censoring, and even when they don't censor, you don't know what you're not seeing because you don't see everything. It picks and chooses what you get to see from who you're friends with. So I'm going to go back to email, which is probably as good as it gets right now, so you can you'll be able to subscribe, and that email newsletter will be free to give you updates. I'll have these thumb drives that will make it easier for you to have the information. Like, say, it'd be a lot of information to download, even for those people that do have good internet. Plus, we also know that with the terms that are included in hosting websites and in having internet connections, that any kind of unapproved speech can be cut off at any time. And even more recently, YouTube has been cracking down on anything it doesn't agree with. So even that I want to give out for free is going to be difficult to do. And I'm just hope that those that can will take advantage of this. I believe the unprepared prepper go a long way to getting you ready for what's coming, because the grid down is not the same thing as a power outage. Grid down is basically going to be for the rest of your life. And if you're prepared for it, that life can be a whole lot longer. If you're not prepared, that life's probably going to be under 2 months. Vincent?
I absolutely agree with you, John. I think it's going to be, there's no question in my mind that it's getting more difficult to do everything that I'm trying to do, even with the electricity running right now. It's still getting more difficult every day. I'm not exaggerating. And with the power out, wow, it's going to be a near impossibility. One of the things that if our class watched Jericho as a homework assignment, they saw that when they realized the power was out and it didn't look like it was going to come back, and and they were using the fuel for the generator for the hospital and for the local tavern, that the supermarket in town, the only supermarket in town, was going to lose the meat. So they had meat and everything that was frozen and refrigerated. So they had a big celebration, and they were going to eat everything before it went bad. Now think about that. What would you do? What would you do if the electricity went down? Would you eat everything right now? Class, we're looking for some instructors. And here are the categories. We think time is getting shorter, and so do you know how to make beef jerky? Okay, we'd love to chat with you. How about pickling? Do you know how to pickle? We'd love to chat with you. We're looking for some engineers to help us build our own battery banks for the long run. Nickel, iron, lead, acid, and instruct us in the construction of these batteries and how to make them last longer, how to build them for ourselves. And how about a capacitor bank? We're looking for an electrical engineer to help us build a capacitor bank, which may take the place of some of the batteries on our storage systems. We're looking for someone to teach us about refractory cement for high temperatures, someone to teach us how to build rocket stoves, and other technologies that maybe you think that we ought to know about that we haven't talked about yet on this broadcast classroom. This is the preparedness and survival broadcast for teaching. So if you'd like to join us and you have some of those skills, please share them with us. And you can contact me at Vincent at USA Prepares, Vincent at USA Prepares, and in caps for the subject line, instructor. Let's use the word instructor, all caps. Vincent at USAPREPARES.com. John, back to you.
And in that vein, this platform that I'm doing is excellent for a lot of that. So much of what we do on the air, it's very difficult just to describe with words. A lot of times you need pictures. There's some articles I don't even try to discuss because we don't have the visual there. And even when you write a book and do a good job at that, you're not able to, go through the steps. And a good example there is like, when you're in a math class, you've got the math book, but the formula is just there printed on the page. You don't get to see it developed. And once you see that formula develop, it's like, okay, I understand it now. And that's why these video presentations are so powerful. You have the audio, video, you get to develop things. You've got plenty of time to do it with. In my case, the stick's just doing PowerPoint type presentations, but it could very easily show you how to do like the beef jerky, or how to slaughter an animal, how to do the butchering, how to do the fermentation process. There's no end to how this can be used, and it's much easier to produce than trying to do DVDs. And you can get it out very quick, and I think this is going to be the wave of the future for as long as we have it.
John, how many hours a week do you spend getting ready for the broadcast so that we can chat for a couple of hours in front of the classroom?
Well, before the conference, it was probably in the neighborhood of 60 hours a week. I had to cut back a bit because I had to prepare for the conference. But basically, the situation I'm in is that, it's darn close to every waking moment that I'm not having to do something, overhead-wise, like go to the grocery store or cook or things like that. It's dedicated to getting information and getting that into a form for people to use. And I'm going to be spending more time developing resources for the stick, in addition to what I bring to the air.
John, when you're teaching in front of people physically, and your seminar's over, what questions do they run up and ask you at the end? What are their burning concerns?
So surprisingly, a lot of what I got at Knoxville wasn't so much their concerns as their appreciation for clarifying what the situation was.
Okay, are they telling you that there's not much information out there? It's hard to find?
Well, I'm not sure it's that as much. It's nobody's put everything together and put it into the terms of the grid down situation.
Very good. Captain John Regan, thanks so much. And John, your website one more time, please.
EZE33.org.
EZE33.org.